On RCKicks today, we're talking monster trucks. Lots and lots of Tamiya Monster Trucks. And we're going to put head-to-head the Clod versus the TXT-2. Which is better? Ooh, controversial. Stay tuned for this one. It's going to be a good one. Hi and welcome to RCKicks. Well, on today's show we're talking monster trucks by Tamiya. Yes, there's quite a few of them, and if you look back in the history of Tamiya, you can see they were very committed to doing monster trucks. If anything, they created the whole market for the monster truck way back in the 80s. So let's just do a little run through of some of the cars and trucks they had back then and how it evolved, and then when it went into like big full-on monster trucks like the Clod Buster and stuff like that. But before we jump to the Clod, we will start with some of the smaller trucks that came out and then led up to that. Also, later on in the video, we're going to put two of the mammoth giants head-to-head around the Bograd track, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on owning both of them. That's the Clod and the TXT-2, which I've just built on the show. Put a link up here, go check that out. Also, I have the Clod build. I'll put a link up here, go check that out as well. But before we get to those massive titans, let's start with the slightly smaller monster trucks that kind of kicked it all off in the beginning. Now, if you go back in the history of Tamiya and look at the Tamiya 100, the first kind of inkling, I guess you'd call it, of a monster truck was probably the Toyota Bruiser. Now, it wasn't an out-and-out monster truck, obviously, and that's kit 58048. Now, that's released way back on the 22nd of August, 1985. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one. Yeah, I don't have one in the collection. One day I will get one. They are very expensive, but they are a beautiful kit. I'll put a picture up here of what it looks like, but I'm guessing all of you guys know what that looks like. And it's a bit of an icon on its own. But it's not a true monster truck, but it kind of got some bigger wheels and it started to lift up in the air. So that's kind of the earliest I can kind of see. Now, after that, we kind of saw the Blackfoot appear. Now, that was 58058, which was on the 8th of October, 1986. Now, the Blackfoot is an icon. Unfortunately, I don't have one of those either. I will add one. So that kind of came out, and that was where it all really started. Then we move on to the Monster Beetle, which was 58060, 23rd of December 1986. So right on the heels of the Blackfoot was the Monster Beetle. Now, I happen to have one of these. Here we go. This is a re-re. This is not an original, obviously. And this is a great icon. It's absolutely filthy. This is Rebecca's car. She drives it. So it's not what you call concourse, but great fun, really easy to drive, zooms around all over the place, has a beautiful body on it. So after that, we then had, on the 23rd of June 1987, we went to the Lunchbox. Now, the Lunchbox is a completely different chassis to this, and I have my daughter's one here. Now, these are true icons from Tamiya. And yes, they are monster trucks. This feels more like a monster truck. I guess it's the tires and the size and the ratio of it seems a bit more monster truck. Now, these are very different. They're not the same at all. Which is more capable? This is probably more capable. Which is more fun? Probably leaning towards this, because this bounces around all over the place, but from a performance point of view, that's this. So it's kind of an interesting one. Which do you prefer? Would you prefer the performance of the Monster Beetle, or is it the out and out fun, bouncing around, driving like a loony Lunchbox? Then after that, Tamiya then went on to produce the Pumpkin, which was 58070 on the 9th of December 1987. Which is, I have a brand new one. My son has one that's looks a lot worse for wear, but I'll bring out the nice one. This one's never been driven. This is a re-release. These are all re-releases, none of them are vintage. These ones get used. So this is no different to the Lunchbox, really. Same underpinnings, just a different body on the top. And they must have sold by the bucket loads. A lot of you guys probably haven't seen a Clod or haven't handled a Clod. And when you look at one of these and you look at the boxes, you kind of go, well, it's kind of a lot, you know, not much different to this, and it's a lot more expensive. But there's a reason for that, and that is this. I'm going to show. This will blow you away, and when you get to see one in real life, you really understand it. So this is my Clod. Yes, it's highly modified, but as you can see, there is a big difference. So the Clod came out way back in 21st of September 1987, and it was a Chevrolet body, and it was badged up Chevrolet, but later on that was removed. I guess they fell out, and then that was removed, and you had there was a tailgate that had it written on as well. That disappeared. Now a few more cars came out, and then later on the bullhead came out, which was kit 58089. That was the 13th of November 1990. So that's 3 years after the Clod came out. No real difference underneath, just a different body. I put a picture up here of what it looks like. Can't say I'm a fan, to be fair. It's an oddball kind of looking thing. I won't get one of those because I've got the Clod and there's not much in it. Then we had lots and lots of re-re's over the years. We've seen the Clod re-release, which is 58321, 23rd of March 2004. That was a Super Clod Buster. So we've jumped from 87 all the way to 2004. Then we really, Tamiya got into their stride with the re-releasing of the Clod, and that goes to show just how popular it is even today. And the 17th of December 2008, the Super Clod Buster metal plated special edition came out, which was basically the same body but just in like a chrome finish, metal chrome finish. Then they jumped forward again to 58518, which was the Super Clod Buster on the 1st of August 2013. Then we go to the latest incarnation of the Clod, and that was 47432 Super Clod Buster Black Edition. That was the 8th of February 2020. So bringing you right up to date. So they have released this truck 5 times in total, not including the bullhead, and the bullhead has been re-released as well. So you can see still massively popular today. And I think what's made it even more popular is the amount of modifications and parts you can get for these trucks. You can change, like this one, the whole chassis. You can get metal axles. You can change suspension. What tends to stay though is the axles and the wheels and tires. Some people put metal rims in, but the tires kind of stay. But you can throw thousands of pounds at these. You can spend £200 on rims alone, £150 an axle if you want to have a full metal axle. Then you've got steering, carbon fiber like this one is, and there's racing truck kits for these unbelievable amounts of modifications, where you kind of really, they're not a Clod anymore. This one kind of looks like a Clod, but really the only thing left is the axles, the tires, the wheels and the body. Everything else has gone. So there we go. Anyway, then we have, if you jump back in time, after the Clod was released and the bullhead was released, Tamiya wanted to produce something else that was more modern and looked a bit more like a proper monster truck. Whereas I suppose a lot of people were saying, oh, well, the Clod isn't really matched to a real monster truck. So they then brought out the Juggernaut on the 29th of March 1999, kit 58232. That was a complete disaster because the gearboxes were just junk and they were eating each other. I've done a whole video on this. I'll put it up here. Go check that out if you want to. I actually got a Juggernaut. I'll show you in it in a second. Yeah, it needs a bit of work. Then there's a Juggernaut 2, which came out a year later, which was the 22nd of March 2000 on the kit 58256. That was purely really just to fix the problems that they did with the first kit that was released. So it was a reactional thing. I don't think they planned to have Juggernaut 1 and Juggernaut 2. There wasn't that much difference, just fixing the issues with the first one. I actually have one of those, so I will get it now. I've actually left it upstairs, so I'll have to do the YouTube magic. And there it is. As you can see, it's just a massive box of bits. I did actually drive this and I put some footage on the show. I'll put a link up here. Go check that out if you want to see this before I did this to it. This was very different. This was much more leaning towards a real monster truck. Had completely different wheels and tires, different running gear, axles and everything. So far my experience with this, Very, very heavy, lots of metal, very clunky. I wouldn't say it was as agile feeling as the Clod was. So I don't know whether, I haven't put it back together again yet, and I haven't done any modifications or anything to it. So I'll leave a bit of judgment out. I'm only going on what I drove it when I first got it. So it did feel a bit slow, clunky, didn't really move around, but the suspension didn't really move around, just kind of just juddered along a lot. So I think that may be to do with the setup of it and things like that. And the reason I say that is because I built the TXT-2, which used the same axles, and that is a completely different animal. So then they brought out this, which was the Juggernaut 2. This will be coming back on the show to be fully restored. I have all the bits and pieces in here to put it back together again. So that will be coming. Right, let's get rid of it. You can see why I need a bigger studio, can't you? Then, where's my notes? Then after the Juggernaut 2, which is in 2000, then we jump forward to the TXT-1 Extreme Kit 58280. Now this, I want to get one of these. They're absolutely stunning, but they're very rare in the UK. A bit like the Juggernaut 2, not many around. And that was a big step forward. And the TXT-1 Extreme, I'll put a picture up here what it looks like. Beautiful chassis. Really nice, lovely metal side plates. Had the upgraded axles, so a real step forward from the Juggernaut 2. And I haven't experienced one, but it's very close to the TXT-2, which I have got, which has been on the show, and that is vastly different. So I can't really say too much about the TXT-1. Looks beautiful, love the body, love the ratio of it. Really starts to look like a monster truck, and I'm a big fan. So I will try and get one if I can, but they come up very rarely in the UK. After that, we then jump forwards to the TXT-2, which is this one. Oh, the Agrios. Now I put the original tyres back on it, and yeah, don't like it. The TXT-1 came with the Clod wheels and tyres, but for some reason when they brought out the TXT-2, they changed the tyres completely. I'm guessing it's performance related, but it's definitely not looks. This truck suits the Clod wheels massively. It looks so much better, and so much so I've actually bought some tyres and I'm trying to hunt some rims out to change them over. Now it's not as easy as just bolting them on. The different lug nuts, you can fit the Clod wheels on the TXT-2, but the mounts on the rims are slightly smaller, so they fit, but the hole and it moves around a little bit, so you have to have adapter plates for it if you want to run it in anger. So we're going to run these round the track. I'm going to put these head to head. Now the track is wet and dirty, but that's exactly what these are for. So we'll do that soon. Now after driving the TXT-2 and my modified Clod, these are very close in their form. The way they drive now, power to weight ratio that I've got with them, how nimble they are. So you have to kind of say that the TXT-1 and the TXT-2 was a massive step forward from the Clod. Now all the Clod fans out there are going to be going, no, that's not true. And I've already put out a few comments when I built this one, and everyone's like, no, the Clod is better. Now, the argument coming back tends to be more about modification parts and availability of parts being the reason the Clod is better. So yes, I have to agree with them on that side of it, that to get any parts for the Clod is usually pretty easy because they've been released so many times, and there's so many companies doing modification parts for them. But if you take it back to the kits themselves, just the kits out of the box, you build it, you run it, TXT-2 spanks the Clod completely out of the box, stock form. There is just night and day. The Clod, I'm going to be bold here and say the Clod stock form out of the box, handles pants, absolute pants. The steering is awful. You've got one servo in the middle, massive long links trying to drive two axles. Unless it's going full speed, it won't turn at all. So stationary, you cannot get it to pivot its wheels. It's just too much resistance and there's too much slop in the steering. So anyone buying a Clod, don't let that put you off, but you will have to modify the steering. And the best you can do is put on axle steering, and you can see that's exactly what Tamiya did when they released the TXT-1 and the TXT-2. They took that modification and they made it a standard feature. It's right at the front here. If anything, I'd say they did a better job of it, because if you look at my modified Clod, it's very exposed at the front where they've put it behind a shroud, and it works really well. But they both now steer, drive, mental, absolutely mental. So there you go. If I was going to buy one over the other, ooh. Well, let's put them around the track first, and I'll come back to my final thoughts on these two, which one I would buy if I had to have one. Right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put the Clod around the track and see if it will set a time. Right, let's go out and blast it around the track. So there you go, that's the Super Clod. Now obviously they're not really designed to be raced around a track like that, so it wasn't dialed in for that. It's just run as it is. If I was going to dial it in, I would really lower the rear steering to be very minimal, or even lock the front steering just so that you could throw it around, because once you use four-wheel steering, it wants to turn, and obviously they're high, so they want to flip over, so you can't go into the corners as fast as you'd want. But I just left it as it is right now versus the Agrios as well. It had the exact same issue. It did it in 11.09. Well, obviously, and it's wet as well. Obviously, that then puts us to be the slowest round the track. But then that's kind of what we expected. But did it beat the TXT-2? Stay tuned to the end, because later on I do some jumping for you. So I've got some jumping footage right at the end. But right now, let's cut to see how the Agrios did. So that was the Agrios, and loads of fun. Very, very similar to how my Clod feels now it's been modified. Both suffered from the same problem of being too strong on the rear steering to throw it around a track. Really, if you want to do straight out laps, really you need to dial the back steering down to quite minimal or almost off, really, because it's just too sharp a turning. But when you're driving this and you want to do jumps and you want to go around a small track course, then that's what you would need the four-wheel drive steering for. Right, let's see, did it beat the Clod round the track? Now the Clod did it in 11.09 and the TXT-2 did it in 10.97, so the Agrios was quicker, but there wasn't that much in it. Now we come down to the fun bit, the review of which one would you get and a bit of jumping. So let's do a quick boil down review of which one you should buy. My personal opinion. Now, it's not cut and dry, black and white. Like most things in life, you've got to look at it from different angles. So if I could only afford one of these cars, a Clod Buster or a TXT-2 Agrios, which one would I buy? Now, definitely both kits need bearings. You must have enough money for bearings. Electronics wise, if you want to run four-wheel steer, then you need to get a transmitter receiver that can give you a combined steering. Now I use the Radio Link RC6GS, put a link in the description, very easy to get that working. And the reason I do that is because I can set steering rates, steering limits for both sides, whereas if you use a Y cable and you just run one signal to both servos, you can't adjust rates, speeds, endpoints on both, so that's why I do that. Anyway, apart from that, now if you are very nostalgic about a Clod, you had one when you were a child or something like that, that's going to have massive value for you. So that's probably going to sway you to buy a Clod. If you're not personally attached to the Clod from a childhood thing, the better vehicle out the box with just bearings is definitely the TXT-2, for sure. Because now this is performing like my modified Clod. Now, if you're looking from another aspect that you are only going to buy these, put bearings in them, drive them, never upgrade them, never change anything, then you need to buy the TXT-2 because you're so much further down the line before you even start. If you like the idea of modifying and changing quite a lot of a monster truck and you like all the options available to you, then a Clod is going to suit you better. But from a price point of view, it's going to cost you more. Now my Clod, when you add in a whole carbon chassis and all the servo modifications and the mounts and things like that, it's way more expensive than getting one of these. So that's kind of where it's at. It will depend on you. Both of them are epic. If you're going to get if you're going to get an Agrios, then I would definitely recommend getting the Clod wheels, but you have to get the adapters, because it looks so much better with the Clod wheels on it. It just does, and that's what I'm doing. But then obviously you've got to add that into the equation from the cost point of view. If you could sell these wheels and tyres, you might claw back a little bit of money, but I kind of think, who's going to buy these wheels and tyres? No one who's got a Clod is going to buy these wheels and tyres. So these, I think they probably won't sell very well, so I don't think you'll get much money back from them unless someone who likes this style just wants to put new tyres on because they've worn out their other ones, but that's not going to be that many. So there you go, that's the two. So there's the decision on what you're going to get. I highly recommend getting one. They are fantastic fun. I wasn't sold when I first got my Clod, but great. And now I've got, what, nearly four of them. And the only one I'm missing is a TXT-1, which I will try and hunt down at some point, even though it's not massively different from this one, but I just love that look. Right, you stay to the end, so here's a little reward for you. It is a little bit of jumping of the Clod and the TXT-2. There you go, I hope you enjoyed that, and that's a big part of monster trucks, is jumping them and bashing them around. So yeah, great fun, really enjoyed it. Now if you'd like to see the full build videos on both these trucks, I'll put some links up here and I'll put them in the description. I've got build videos of the Clod and the full chassis modification videos, and I have the full building and painting of the Agrios. Anyway, thanks very much, and if you'd like to have more content from RCKicks earlier and every day that I'm building behind the scenes, go check out the RCKicks Patreon page. Also, the Facebook RCKicks page is blowing up now with 3,000 members, so go check that out as well. See you soon. Bye bye. Check out one of these videos for some more RC fun.